My friend, if you are watching this video right now, it is not a coincidence. God has a message for you. Heaven is whispering, before December ends, 3 miracles will visit your life. I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to prepare your spirit for what God is about to release. A closed door will open, a dried well will flow again, and something you lost will return to you. Listen carefully, because after today, your December will not end the same way it began. There are moments in life when the silence of God feels louder than any storm. You prayed, you waited, you believed, but nothing changed. As the year moved forward, your hope slowly weakened. It felt like every sign of life disappeared from your dream. The enemy whispered, "It is finished," and your heart believed it. But what if God is not finished? What if God has been waiting for the moment when your faith seems empty so that His power can be fully seen? This is the mysterious language of heaven. When man gives up, God steps in. When the flesh is exhausted, the Spirit begins its work. Sometimes the death of your hope is not the end. It is a doorway for resurrection. Think about the valley of dry bones in the book of Ezekiel. That was not a place of delay, it was a place of total impossibility. There was no sign of movement, no sign of breath, nothing to inspire faith. Yet that is exactly where God brought His prophet. Why? Because God wanted Ezekiel to see the reality of death so that he could witness the supernatural power of resurrection. In the same way, some people listening to this have been placed by God in situations that look completely hopeless. Not because God forgot you, but because He is preparing to show His power in a way you have never experienced before. You may be standing in your own valley of dry bones. A broken relationship, a financial crisis, an illness, or a dream that has no signs of life left. But listen carefully, the presence of dry bones is not the absence of God. It may be a divine setup for a miracle that will glorify His name in your life. When God asked Ezekiel, "Can these bones live again?" the prophet didn't respond with human logic or emotional pain. He didn't say, "I don't think so." He didn't say, "I believe it." He only said, "Lord, only you know." That humility is the key to revival. The first step toward resurrection is surrender. It is when we stop trying to fix everything in our own strength and simply place it into God's hands. You may not know how things will change. You may not know when. You may not even see the first step. But if you can still say, "Lord, only you know," then heaven can still work. As long as there is one mustard seed of trust left in your heart, God can still speak life and destiny into your situation. Before December ends, God may not revive your dream the way you imagined. He may not bring back an old opportunity. He might do it in a new way, through a new path, with a greater purpose than before. In the valley, the bones didn't just return to their old position, they formed an army. What was broken became strong. What was buried became powerful. The same will happen in your life. God will not simply restore you to where you were, He will transform what was dead into something stronger than before. Your tears will become wisdom. Your pain will become testimony. Your failures will become authority. And what was once a place of defeat will become a place of power in your story. Sometimes God allows something to die in order to protect you from something worse. You may think you lost a job, but maybe He was saving you from compromise. You may think a door closed, but maybe He was preparing a better one. You may think someone walked away, but maybe he was removing what would distract you from your purpose. The death of something is not always a judgment. It may actually be divine protection. And when that season is over, God says, now watch me breathe life again. This year may be ending, but God's calendar is not controlled by your clock. He can move in a day what you expected to take years. One word from Him can undo a decade of damage. One breath from Him can melt the hardest heart and revive the most fragile dream. As the days of this year come to a close, many people start lowering their expectations. They think time is running out. They stop praying for miracles because they don't want to feel disappointed again. They remove their spiritual seed from the ground because they believe nothing will grow. But this is the moment when faith must rise. God does not need 12 months to answer a prayer. He only needs one moment. If He created the world in 6 days, do you think He cannot move in the last few weeks of the year? The God who raised Lazarus after 4 days in the grave can surely act before December ends. Heaven is not panicking about your deadline. Heaven has already written your final chapter for this year, and it will be better than you expect. So lift up your heart once more. Pray again. Hope again. Believe again. Not because your situation gives you any reason to believe, but because the one who promised is faithful. Walk through your dry valley and speak as the prophet spoke. O dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Speak life over your finances. Speak healing over your body. Speak restoration over your family. Don't wait to feel hope. Speak hope until you feel it. Faith does not deny reality, but faith declares a greater truth above the reality. Your words hold power, and when they align with God's voice, miracles begin to move. There are dreams you buried in January. There are prayers you stopped praying in March. There are goals you abandoned in June. But God sees every seed planted in faith. You may think it died, but to God, it only went into the soil. And when something is buried in the soil, it is not dead. It is being prepared for resurrection. God never wastes faith. Every tear you sowed, every prayer you offered, every effort you made, He has recorded it. And now He is saying, the time of resurrection has come. Before December ends, something is going to rise. It may seem sudden to you, but heaven has been preparing it for a long time. What looks like a surprise to you is actually a divine appointment written in God's timing. So don't harden your heart. Don't say, I've waited too long. Don't say, I'm too tired. Your tiredness is not greater than God's power. Your waiting is not wasted. Your faith is not forgotten. You may be at your weakest moment, but that is when God loves to work. As long as there is breath in your lungs, there is hope in your story. Speak life. Believe again. Expect resurrection. And when revival comes, may your testimony be this: what I thought was dead, God has brought back to life. There are seasons when heaven moves silently, not because God is absent, but because He is preparing something deeper than what our eyes can see. Many times, we think a miracle must come in a dramatic way, light from the sky, a loud voice, a sudden moment of power. But most of the time, God works in a softer, quieter, mysterious way. And one of the greatest ways He moves is through people. Miracles are not always wrapped in glory. Sometimes they are hidden in simple conversations, unexpected meetings, and ordinary faces. Before this year ends, you may not see fire, but you will see favor. You may not see thunder, but you will see a timely hand reaching out to lift you in your weakest moment. God's answer to your prayer may not be a miracle that falls from heaven. It may come through a person He sends into your life. Think about the times when your heart was tired, when you wanted to give up, when prayer felt heavy and hope felt distant. Was there not at least one moment when someone appeared right when you needed strength? Maybe it was a short message. Maybe it was a call. Maybe it was someone simply listening to you. That was not coincidence. That was not chance. That was the hand of God working through human hearts. Elijah, after performing great miracles, sat under a tree and asked God to take his life. He was exhausted, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. But God did not send a thunderstorm nor a flaming chariot. He sent an angel with bread and water and whispered, "Eat and rest." Sometimes divine help looks like a gentle voice, a cup of water, a hand on your shoulder. Heavenly strength is often delivered in earthly vessels. Peter was drowning in the water. He started his journey with faith, but when fear entered his heart, he began to sink. His feet slipped, his confidence collapsed, and his life was moments away from ending. But Jesus didn't lecture him. He didn't say, "You should have believed more." He didn't say, "Why were you afraid?" Instead, he stretched out his hand. That hand was the miracle. That hand was the answer. That hand was the rescue. And today, God may place that same kind of hand in your path. But it may not look supernatural. It may be a mentor, a friend, a teacher, a colleague, a stranger, or even a child, but their presence will carry the light of God. Their help will carry His authority. Their encouragement will carry His breath. Heaven touches earth through human hands. In the story of Ruth and Naomi, Naomi lost everything. She was empty, hopeless, bitter, and heartbroken. She even said, "Call me not Naomi, call me Mara," which means bitter. But God led one woman, Ruth, into her life. Ruth was not rich. Ruth was not famous. Ruth had no power or political influence. But she had faithfulness. And sometimes, one loyal person in your life is greater than 1,000 noisy ones. Ruth stood with Naomi when everyone else walked away. And through that relationship, God positioned Ruth to become part of the lineage of King David and ultimately the lineage of Jesus Himself. What looked like a simple friendship was actually the unfolding of divine prophecy. Naomi did not receive her miracle through a prophet or a king, but through a humble, loving person sent by God. Naomi thought life was over, but God said, "Your miracle is standing beside you." Today you might feel alone. You might think no one understands you. You might be carrying battles that no one sees. But hear this, God has not forgotten you. Even when you don't feel strength in prayer, God is still moving in your story. Even when you don't see a way, God is still preparing a helper. Even when you feel isolated, heaven is planning a connection. Your next miracle might not be a change in your situation, but a change in who walks beside you. You might think what you need is money or power or opportunity, but God might give you something greater, the right person at the right time. They won't carry you for themselves. They will carry you because God told them to. There are people assigned by God to your journey. You may have never met them yet. They don't even know your name, but God knows how to arrange paths, orchestrate timings, and connect stories. You may be just one introduction away from breakthrough, one conversation away from clarity, one connection away from restoration. Don't think God has to work alone. He often works through willing hearts. You may start noticing that someone begins encouraging you more than before. Someone might see value in you that others ignored. Someone may give you an opportunity you never thought you would receive. That is not chance. That is orchestration. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need the person God sends. And remember, you must also be ready to be that person for someone else. Sometimes your miracle begins when you become someone else's miracle. When you comfort a broken heart, God heals a part of you. When you lift someone who is drowning, God lifts a deeper part of your spirit. When you speak life to someone who lost hope, God breathes renewed life into your own soul. Don't only wait for miracles. Carry one within you. Even a word of encouragement becomes a seed of transformation when spoken with love and truth. God may not remove every challenge, but He will not leave you alone in it. Even Jesus, while carrying His cross, had help. A man named Simon of Cyrene was taken from the crowd to carry his cross for a few steps. Jesus did not need help, but He accepted it to teach us that accepting help is not weakness. It is humility and wisdom. If the Son of God accepted help on His way to destiny, then surely we can also receive the help God sends for us. Some people reject help because of pride. Some isolate themselves and then wonder why they feel abandoned. But isolation is the enemy's strategy to cut you away from the very hands God may have prepared for you. Pride builds walls, but humility builds bridges. Perhaps your miracle is waiting on the other side of your humility. Be open, be attentive, be willing to receive. Help may come in a form you're not used to, but its source is heaven. So, as this year comes to a close, do not close your heart. Someone may call you unexpectedly. Someone may forgive you when you least expect it. Someone may open a door for you. Someone may give you a word that becomes a turning point. Someone may invest in your future. And when it happens, do not say, "I was lucky," but instead declare, "God remembered me." Before December ends, God will send divine help. It may not shine like a burning bush, but it will carry the breath of heaven. And when you receive it, your heart will know this was the second miracle. Sometimes life feels like a hallway full of closed doors. You knock, but nothing opens. You try, but nothing moves. You pray, but everything remains still. And slowly, you begin to wonder if God has forgotten you. You begin to ask yourself, maybe I am not called. Maybe this dream was not from God. Maybe the time has passed. Yet the truth is often the opposite. The delay is not denial. Closed doors do not always mean rejection. Sometimes they mean protection. God may allow certain doors to remain shut, not because you are unworthy, but because He is preparing a door that no one else can access. A door where His glory will be seen. A door that cannot be manipulated by people. A door that will be so clearly opened by heaven that you will know it was divinely chosen for you. Think about Joseph. He didn't walk through open doors. He was pushed into pits, pulled into slavery, and thrown into prisons. From the outside, it looked like his life was going backward. Every door seemed to slam in his face. It looked unfair. It looked painful. It looked like every dream he had was slowly being erased. But in reality, every closed door was a step toward the right one. The king's palace was not near his village. It was not near his comfort zone. It was not near his family. He had to be taken out of familiar places to be positioned in purposeful places. Prison was not punishment for Joseph, it was preparation. The pit was not rejection, it was repositioning. He had to stand in a place where only God's favor, not human influence, could open the door. When that door finally opened, no one could question it, no one could block it, and no one could claim credit for it. Before December ends, God may open a door in your life that will make every previous disappointment make sense. Every no you received this year might be preparing the way for a yes that will change everything. Every closed door may have been God's way of protecting your future. Many times we think we need certain connections, certain people, or certain opportunities. But sometimes God watches us chase the wrong doors and says, if I let you enter, it will harm your soul. If I open this door, your heart will drift away from me. So I will keep it closed, not to crush your dream, but to protect your destiny. The right door is not the one that simply gives you what you want. It is the one that leads you to your purpose. God sees further than we see. He knows you better than you know yourself. If He kept certain things out of reach, it may be because He saw the hidden danger behind them. Some relationships looked promising, but God saw betrayal. Some jobs looked attractive, but God saw compromise. Some opportunities looked perfect, but God saw pain. When God closes a door, it is never to keep you stuck. It is to keep you safe until the right one arrives. The book of Revelation says, when He opens a door, no one can shut it, and when He closes a door, no one can open it. This year, you may have tried to open doors with your own strength, but they remained closed. You tried strategy, skill, persistence, but nothing moved. And now you think time has run out. But listen carefully, God does not work according to the calendar of men. He holds time in His hands. If He created the universe with a single word, do you think He needs months to open a door for you? A miracle does not need time. It needs divine will. And when that will is released, the door will open swiftly and supernaturally. When Esther was chosen to stand before the king, it was not because she fought for the position. It was because God gave her favor. She was not born into royalty. She did not have influence. She did not have the right background. But when God opened the door, no law, no jealousy, and no enemy could shut it. She stepped into a destiny that she could never have planned with her own strength. What looked impossible suddenly became the perfect path. In the same way, before this December ends, God may open a door that you never thought belonged to you. It may surprise even you. It may be bigger than what you prayed for. And when the door opens, do not say, "How did this happen?" Instead say, "This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes." But there is a responsibility that comes with this miracle. You must stay close to God. Doors opened by man can be sustained by man. But doors opened by God can only be sustained by intimacy with God. If you try to walk into God, given opportunities with pride, fear, or self-reliance, you may not be ready for them. The delay may be God's way of building character. The waiting season may be preparing your heart for the weight of your blessing. Joseph didn't receive the throne immediately. God shaped his wisdom, trained his patience, built his humility, strengthened his faith, and when his character was ready, the door opened, and it never shut again. So, if you're in a waiting season, don't waste it. This is not the time to complain. It is the time to grow. If the door has not opened, it doesn't mean God has forgotten. It means God is working deeper. He is shaping your heart, sharpening your spirit, preparing your mind, and cleansing your motives. When the right door arrives, you will not need to push. You will simply walk through. God will not need your strength. He will need your faith. You will not need your connections. You will need your surrender. The door of God stands on the hinges of obedience. The key to divine access is trust. Let this truth settle in your spirit. You are not behind schedule. You are in training. The pain you carry today is not permanent. It is purposeful. The door that opens will come with a testimony. It will not be just an opportunity. It will be evidence that God remembered you. People may be surprised when it happens. Even you may be surprised. But God will not be surprised. He already wrote it in your story. And when it opens, even those who doubted you will have to admit, this was the hand of God. So don't stop believing. Don't stop expecting. Don't accept defeat. If every door has been shut this year, lift your head and declare, God has saved the best for last. The door may not open when you expect, but it will open when you are ready. Before December ends, a miracle will knock on your life. A divine opportunity will rise when you least expect it. And when it comes, no man will be able to stop it, no enemy will be able to steal it, and no fear will be able to block it. The door will open, and it will stay open, because when God opens a door, no one can shut it. As another year comes to an end, many hearts become quiet. The calendar reaches its final days, and people begin to count their disappointments. They look at what did not change, what did not grow, what did not heal. Some say, maybe next year. Others say, maybe it was never meant to be. Dreams are postponed until January. Prayers are delayed until the new year begins. Faith goes into hibernation, waiting for a fresh start. But heaven does not surrender to the calendar. Time does not limit God. God does not wait for January to act. He does not need a full year to answer a prayer. He can move in a moment, even in the very last second, when your back is against the wall, when hope seems to have expired. The end of the year is not the end of His power. In fact, it is often the stage He chooses to display His glory when human expectation is lowest. There is a reason why God performs some miracles at the final moment. When man steps back, He steps forward. When people give up, He begins His work. He waits until our strength is exhausted so that no one can claim the victory for themselves. Brokenness becomes the perfect environment for breakthrough. Because when nothing is left in our hands, everything can be placed in His hands. God does not fear the closing of the year. In fact, He does some of His best work when time seems almost gone. When Jonah was thrown into the sea, the storm was at its worst. The waves were fierce. The wind was loud. Yet right when death seemed certain, that was the moment God appointed a great fish to rescue him. It did not come early. It did not appear halfway through. It came when all hope was gone. What looks like the end is often the beginning of God's intervention. Have you forgotten that He parted the Red Sea at the edge? When Moses and the Israelites were blocked from every side, not when they were miles away from danger, but when Pharaoh's army was right behind them and the deep sea was in front of them, God waited until the moment human strength became useless. He waited until fear reached its peak. Only then did he say, "Now watch what I will do." Some of your miracles will not come in comfortable times, but in the moments when your heart feels cornered, when your tears feel heavier and your spirit feels weaker. That may be the very moment heaven is preparing to move. Before this December ends, someone listening to this may experience a miracle at the very edge of hope, in a way that will leave no doubt that it was God alone who intervened. Do not measure God's power by the days left on the calendar. 12 days or 2 days means nothing to the one who created eternity. If he could raise Lazarus after 4 days in the grave, he can surely answer you before December ends. Your situation may already smell like death, just like Lazarus' tomb. People may have already concluded that it is over. Even your own heart may be tempted to bury the prayer. But Jesus still arrives, often late in human timing, yet always right on time in divine purpose. And when he arrives, he does not comfort the tomb. He commands it, "Lazarus, come forth." You serve a God who speaks to dead things as if they are still alive. You serve a God who sees endings as beginnings. You serve a God who uses time, not as a limitation, but as a canvas to reveal his power. So what should you do when the year is ending, but your miracle has not yet come? Do not stop believing. Do not stop expecting. Your faith must not retire when the calendar prepares to change. Faith must remain awake until the final moment. Some people lock away their dreams when December begins. They say, "I will start again next year." But faith says, "I will still believe right now." The womb of miracles is expectation. When faith remains awake, even at the last hour, miracles still have an environment to manifest. A seed does not stop growing because the year is closing. A prayer does not lose power because December is almost finished. Heaven responds not to dates, but to faith. David was told that he would become king, but years passed and nothing changed. From caves to wilderness, from battles to betrayal, he waited. Yet the throne arrived, not when the year was fresh, but when all seemed cloudy. When Saul's reign collapsed, David's calling rose. Seasons may change, nations may tremble, but God's word never falls to the ground. What he speaks, he fulfills. Even if time is nearly gone, his power remains. The natural world may slow down as the year ends, but the supernatural realm does not slow down. Sometimes, the last chapter carries the greatest revelation. Perhaps this year taught you patience. Perhaps it taught you humility. Perhaps it taught you to pray deeper and seek God more. Do not look at the months that passed and say, "I wasted so much time." Instead say, "God was building me layer by layer." A tree does not grow taller until its roots grow deeper. What feels like delay in your life may actually be the strengthening of your foundations. The depth of your struggle may be preparing the height of your testimony. When deep roots are built, great fruits are guaranteed. You may not see outward change yet, but there has been inward construction. Heaven has been shaping you secretly for something that may manifest suddenly before this year ends. Therefore, close this year not with regret, but with renewed faith. Look at the final page of the calendar and declare, God is still able. Do not bury your expectations. Lift them again. Pray again. Believe again. Heaven is not finished. Angels do not check calendars to see when they must stop working. The Holy Spirit does not rest when December arrives. God does not need 365 days to do what He can do in one divine moment. What took years to break can be healed in seconds. What took months to destroy can be restored in minutes. One conversation, one opportunity, one divine encounter can change your whole story before this year even ends. Yes, maybe your hands are tired, maybe your heart is bruised. But let your spirit rise one more time. Stand in faith at the edge of this year and declare, Lord, I may not see the way, but I still trust your power. I may not know how, but I still believe you can. I may be at the end, but you are only beginning. And when that faith ignites, even if only a small flame, God will see it. And when God sees it, He may do before December ends what you thought He had reserved for the distant future. Expect it. Believe it. Walk in faith. For the end of this year is not the end of your destiny. It may be the beginning of your miracle.